I agree, Nekna Melita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. It has been a minute, and today I'm going to be talking about my November TBR. Like I said, it's been a minute. I went into this weird like slump where I just needed a break from YouTube. I was not feeling filming, let alone editing. Like, editing's always a hit and miss anyway, but filming, I just for some reason just didn't want to do it. So took an unofficial break. I do have my September and my October wrap-ups that I still need to post. They're coming. But yeah, I hope your Halloween went well. I hope if you celebrate Samhain or Dia de los Muertos that went well as well. For the month of November, I am participating in the Bloomin Readathon, which is a readathon hosted by Alli from Allisonpaiges, and I will have everything, her channel, her announcement video linked down in the description down below. But basically it is a bingo board that Alli drew, and each bingo square has its own prompt, and yeah, it's yeah. All the prompts are on it's a challenge on Storygraph, so I'll have that link down below too, which I think is really helpful. And I think that's all the readathons I'm really participating in. There's no Indigathon, which was a indigenous themed readathon, and there is no Skoden readathon this year. There is an indigenous themed readathon, I believe, on Instagram, and if I can find the information, I'll have that link down below if you want to go check that out. So you should be reading in books by indigenous authors outside November. This is one of those things that I feel very much about, and I was really just debating on even announcing this, just because like I'm indigenous all year long, so it's more than just a month. But because I haven't highlighted other awareness month, heritage months, I feel like, I don't know, I feel some kind of way about it, mostly because you should be reading Latina, Black, Palestinian, LGBTQ, indigenous authors outside the months that we're happening to bring awareness to them. So I have certain feelings towards the awareness month. I understand them, that it's to bring awareness and let people know about them, but people use that as an excuse just to save books for those months, and I read them all year round. So I know I haven't been doing the greatest in terms of reading indigenous authored books all year. This year is probably one of my least successful in terms of reading indigenous authored books, but even before October ended, I like picked up a couple and just kind of dove into them. So I don't know if it's because I've been doing this for a couple of years now, but I just feel the need to do so now. So I will be focusing on indigenous authored books in the month of November, despite my feelings. Because this just feels like what I want and what I need right now, as well as focusing on nonfiction books as well, which they can be one and the same, but yeah. So nonfiction November is I think it's more like a reading challenge for the month of November, and this is hosted by Olivia from ABookOlive, or is her name Olive? Sorry, I'll have her information linked down in the description down below too if you want to learn more, but basically it's just to encourage you to pick up more nonfiction books, particularly if you're scared of nonfiction, or if you only read like 1 or 2 a year, to read a bit more. So I think it's more of like a challenge, or directed at people in general, as opposed to a readathon, though she does have she does pick 4 words to kind of theme the readathon on. So I will be doing my Pokemon Cards Choose My TBR, so let's go ahead and get started on that. So if you haven't seen my Pokemon Cards Choose My TBR, I do have a playlist that I will link above as well as down below. But basically I have these Pokemon cards. I have several different packs that I will randomly kind of mix and pull one, and each Pokemon type has a prompt attached to them that I created, and I choose a book based off that prompt. So let's go ahead and so we have Astral Radiance. I do have multiple books set aside that I would really like to get to, and I have started a couple of books and even finished a book already. This is the 3rd day of November, so I'm pretty happy with my progress so far for November, in all honesty. But if worse comes to worse, and I pick a prompt that a book I'm currently reading will fit, I'm just gonna do it. So can get rid of this top card, and let's go ahead and see who the first Pokemon is. Oh, this is Dartrix. This is the evolved form of Rowlet, and this is a grass type Pokemon. So a grass type Pokemon is to read a book with some kind of floral element on the cover. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and make it easy on myself, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick an ALC from Libro that I've already started, because this cover works perfectly for this, and that is The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. We are, let's see, a 4-year-old Micmac girl goes missing from the blueberry fields of Maine, sparking a tragic mystery that haunts the survivors, unravels a family, and remains unsolved for nearly 50 years. July 1962, following the tradition of indigenous workers from Nova Scotia, a Micmac family arrives in Maine to pick blueberries for the summer. Weeks later, 4-year-old Ruthie, the family's youngest child, vanishes. She is last seen by her 6-year-old brother, Joe, sitting on a favorite rock at the edge of the blueberry field. Joe will remain distraught by his sister's disappearance for years to come. In Maine, a young girl named Norma grows up as the only child of an affluent family. Her father is emotionally distant, her mother frustratingly overprotective. Norma is often troubled by reoccurring dreams and visions that seem more like memories than imagination. As she grows older, Norma slowly comes to realize there is something her parents aren't telling her. Unwilling to abandon her intuition, she will spend decades trying to uncover this family secret. So like I said, I've already started this. This is an advanced listener's copy from Libro, so thank you so much to them for being like, I think this came out October 31st, but still, it's like an advanced listener's copy for influencers through Libro. So and I do have this pre-ordered because this cover is gorgeous, and already I feel like this is a good book. I'm like 40% of the way through already, and I've nearly cried a couple times. So and it's also just really interesting because I don't think I've read anything around Micmac people, so this is so far it's really interesting. So, and yeah, so that's my choice for Dartrix. Okay, this is a trainer card, which is unidentified fossil. Trainer cards are mood reads, so I do tend to pick a book for them. It's kind of it's open to whatever I want it to be, but because it's so early in drawing cards, I will put it aside and pick one later. Next, this is Noctowl. Okay, so far this is really weird in the terms of like two Pokemon being owls or owl inspired so far. But this is the evolved form of Hoot Hoot, which is a normal type. So a normal type is to read a contemporary, and for that I'm going to choose the other book that I am currently reading. It is a nonfiction written by an Indigenous author, and that is Thinning Blood, a memoir of family, myth, and identity by Leah Myers. This one, Leah Myers may be the last member of the Jamestown Slalom tribe and her family line due to her tribe's strict blood quantum laws. In this unflinching, intimate memoir, Myers excavates the stories of 4 generations of women in order to leave a record of her family. Beginning with her great-grandmother, the last full-blooded Native member in their lineage, she connects each woman with her totem and constructs her family's totem pole: protective bear, defiant salmon, compassionate hummingbird, and perched on top raven. So I think I'm about almost a third of the way through so far, and so far it's really interesting. I don't necessarily know if it was necessarily written for so far. I will say that the way this is written, Leah Myers didn't grow up knowing much about her culture. She knew where she came from, she knew what she was, but that's it. And she did fight with folks growing up saying yes, she's Native American despite not looking at Native American. She just kind of describes some things in here that I feel like if you grew up in the culture that you would already know. Some slurs, she defines slurs, she defines racism, and she's ultimately just trying to piece together her family lineage. So it's interesting. So my mom and I are actually didn't do this on purpose, but we're both reading this at the same time. She's listening to it, and I just randomly picked up my copy a couple days ago. She's ahead of me, and my mom had picked it up because she's always had an interest about identity, because it was always an issue that she grew up with, that she was never enough. But she doesn't so much enjoy this. I find it interesting just because it is someone outside this area going through something that I haven't gone through necessarily. I don't know if that makes sense at all. I don't know. It's interesting. I'll have to tell you more about it in my wrap up once I finish it. But that's what I'm choosing for Knocked Owl. Okay, this is a graphs energy card. For energy cards, I am to find a book with a similar color on the cover. Okay, so I think for this graphs energy card, I'm going to go ahead and do In Defense of Food by an Eater's Manifesto by Michael Pollan. This is the author of Omnivore's Dilemma, which I actually just got from Zero, so hoping to read that one as well at some point. But this one is a nonfiction about food, and that tends to be what I enjoy reading, particularly in November as Thanksgiving comes up and I get question the reasoning of why some people celebrate Thanksgiving. I start questioning why we eat certain things during the Thanksgiving celebration. So food, there's plenty of it around and we all love to eat it, so why should anyone need to defend it? Because most of what we're consuming today is not food, and how we're consuming it in the car, in front of the TV, and increasingly alone is not really eating. Instead of food, we're consuming edible food-like substances, no longer the products of nature but food of science. Many of them come packaged with health claims that should be our first clue they are anything but healthy. In the so-called Western diet, food has been replaced by nutrients and common sense by confusion. The result is that Michael Pollan calls the American paradox. The more we worry about nutrition, the less healthy we seem to become. So I think it'll be really interesting. So okay, so this is a full holo trainer card, Gardenia's Vigor. So I feel like this would ultimately just mean that I can mood read and anticipated read. I don't know what that is yet, in all honesty. So I'm gonna have to think on that. Next is a reverse holo trainer card canceling cologne. What is going on here? Okay. Again, so I can mood read a backlist book. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on this as well. I'm not sure what's going on with these mood reads, but I'm not minding them. So okay, this is Barboach, which is a water Pokemon, which is to read a book that has water on it or feature or like, you know, has some kind of, it's elements of water. Okay, so I've had for Barboach, I've picked a book that I've had on my TBR before and just haven't been able to get to, and that is Abalone, The Remarkable History and Uncertain Future of California's Iconic Shellfish by Anne Velisis. It's, I mean, that's one thing with, actually I still have the Pokemon card in here that I use. That's one thing about nonfiction books that I enjoy, is that the title's pretty much in the name. But from rocky coasts at Mendocino and Monterey to San Diego's reefs, abalone have held a cherished place in California's culture for millennia. Prized for iridescent shells and delectable meat, this unique shellfish inspired indigenous artisans, bohemian writers, California cuisine, and the popular sport of skin diving, but also became a highly coveted commercial commodity. Mistakenly regarded as an inexhaustible seafood, abalone ultimately became vulnerable to overfishing and early impacts of climate change. Combining rich cultural and culinary history with hard-minded marine science, grassroots activism, and gritty politics, Abalone chronicles the plights of California's abalone species and the growing biological awareness that has become crucial to conserving these rare animals into the future. So, I've mentioned it before, but abalone is very much a part of the local culture, particularly in California, among other spaces, but particularly in the local tribes here in Northern California. California, a couple years ago, I believe it was 2018, ended up making it so that recreational abalone fishing was canceled. So that means you could not harvest them yourself. It was illegal to sell them. That was like 1990s, I believe they canceled commercial abalone fishing. But recreational abalone fishing was canceled and was only supposed to be canceled for a couple years. That was what was said in Oregon as well, and Oregon's going 10 plus years now without recreational abalone fishing, and now California is projecting at least it'll be canceled until 2026. So it's something that when Brad just finally got into it, it was unfortunately canceled, and what my fear is that our salmon is going in the same direction, because this year salmon fishing commercially as well as recreationally was canceled due to the low numbers. So I see this as becoming a trend among a lot of our marine resources. So I'm really curious to learn more about it. Next. This is Mischievous, which is a sidekick Pokemon, and a sidekick is to read a thriller. And for that, I am going to choose Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead and narrated by Sarah Wellborn. This is the Literally Dead book club pick for November. I think this was also an ALC from Libro, so thank you so much to them. This is a twisted tale of murder, obsessive love, and beastly urges that lie dormant within us all, even the God-fearing folk of Bottom Springs, Louisiana. In her small hometown, librarian Ruth Cornier has always felt like an outsider, even as her beloved father rains fire and brimstone warnings from the pulpit at Holy Fire Baptist. Unfortunately for Ruth, the only thing that the townspeople fear more than the god and the devil are the mists that haunt the area. Like the story of the Low Man, a vampiric figure said to steal into sinners' bedrooms and kill them on the moonless nights. When a skull is found deep in the swamp next to a mysterious carved symbols, Bottom Springs is thrown into uproar, and Ruth realizes only she and Everett, an old friend with a dark past, have the power to comb the town's secrets underbelly in search of true evil. So I like the thought of listening to this, but I did test it out, and so far I don't like how the narrator is choosing accents so much. It's very weirdly inflected, and it kind of bothered me, so I kind of skipped to the next one and in hopes to come back to it. And I may try again, but it may be that I have to just get this book as a physical copy, but we'll see. But that's my pick for Mischievous. It's a Hisuian Sneasel. So Sneasel is a dark Pokemon, or at least this version is. I can't remember if the original is or not. I'm pretty sure it is. But a dark dark Pokemon is to read a horror. So I guess we're still in that element, which is fine. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and choose The Center by Ayesha Manazir Siddiqui. This was on sale through Libro, so this was really nice. And it's narrated by Balvinder Sapal. And so I don't know if it's necessarily horror, but I keep hearing it's like a gothic horror mixed with dark academia. A darkly comic speculative debut following an adrift Pakistani translator in London who attends a mysterious language school which boasts complete fluency in just 10 days. But at a secret sinister cost. Anisa Alahi dreams of being a translator of great works of literature, but instead mostly spends her days subtitling Bollywood movies, living off her parents' generous allowance, and discussing the underside of life with her best friend Naima. Anisa's mediocre white boyfriend Adam only adds to her growing sense of inadequacy with his savant-level aptitude for languages, successfully leveraging his expansive knowledge into an enviable career. But when Adam learns to speak Urdu with native fluency practically overnight, Anisa forces him to reveal his secret. I think it's going to be fun. I really enjoy this cover. Yeah, excited about it. Next is Teddy Ursa, which is a normal Pokemon, so it's to read a contemporary. And for that, I'm choosing another nonfiction, and that is 8 Bears. Do I want to do that one? I think so. I want to do 8 Bears by Gloria Dickey. This is Mythic Past and Imperiled Future. I did haul this fairly recently. I don't think it was the last haul, but I think it was one before. Bears have always had a central place in our collective memory, from indigenous folklore and Greek mythology to 19th century fairy tales and the modern toy shop. But as humans and bears come into even closer contact, our relationships near a tipping point. Today, most of the 8 remaining bear species are threatened with extinction. Some, such as the panda bear and the polar bear, are icons of the natural world. Others, such as the speckled bear and the sloth bear, are far less known. So I think this goes through like 8 different bears and talks about their history and their influence. So I think it'll be really fun. Not that any of these won't be, but you know what I mean. Okay, so aside from the trainer cards, this is the last one. This is Magnemite, a steel Pokemon. I always thought it was electric, but okay. I don't get steel very often, so let me check what that is. So steel Pokemon is to read a nonfiction. That worked perfectly. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and do the other Michael Pollan book, which I have, is The Omnivore's Dilemma, A Natural History of 4 Meals by Michael Pollan. And this is narrated by Scott Brick. I don't know where it stopped recording. Damn it. What should we have for dinner? 10 years ago, Michael Pollan confronted us with the seemingly simple question and the omnivore's dilemma. His brilliant and eye-opening exploration of our food choices demonstrated that how we answered it today may determine not only our health but our survival as a species. In the years since, Poland's revolutionary examination has changed the way Americans think about food, bringing wide attention to the little-known but vitally important dimensions of food and agriculture in America. Poland launched a national conversation about what we eat and the profound consequences that even the simplest everyday food choices have on both ourselves and the natural world. So, yeah, that's my pick for that one. Okay, so we have 3 trainer cards left, all mood reads. One is a anticipated new release, and the other is a backlist. And then the other is regular. So for the regular, I'm gonna go ahead, because I can't think of when it was when it was published, though I'm sure I could just look at it. Okay, so this came out this year, but I'm still just gonna choose this one for it. So for Unidentified Fossil, it works really well actually. I'm gonna read Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. This is Angeline Boulley's sophomore book, which have been really excited about, but I've also been like fairly intimidated. It's in the same world as Firekeeper's Daughter. We're actually following a relative of the main character of Firekeeper's Daughter, and I know that this has to do with NAGPRA. Perry Firekeeper Birch has always known who she is, the laid-back twin, the troublemaker, the best fisher on Sugar Island. Her aspirations won't ever take her far from home, and she wouldn't have it any other way. But as the already striking number of missing Indigenous women continues to rise, as her family becomes embroiled in a high-profile murder investigation, and as a greedy grave robber seeks to profit off what belongs to her Anishinaabe tribe, Perry begins to question everything. In order to reclaim this inheritance for her people, Perry has no choice but to take matters in her own hands. She can only count on her friends and her allies, including her overachieving twin and a charming new boy in town with unwavering morals. Old rivalries, sister secrets, and botched heists will not stop her from uncovering the mystery before the ancestors and missing women are lost forever. So I believe this has to do with NAGPRA, which if you saw my House with Good Bones review, I talked about a little bit, but NAGPRA is the what's it stand for? It's like the reclamation of Indigenous remains and art pieces. Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. It was enacted to outline a requirement and process for museums and federal agencies to return certain Native American cultural items, including human remains, to lineal descendants, culturally affiliated tribes, or Native Hawaiian organizations. So, yeah, I think this is relevant too, because I know that I currently work for is actually they don't have a NAGPRA coordinator, so they have to, I think, what's it called, out of alignment or something like that. They have to hire one before the next year. So that should be interesting. So that's what I'm choosing for Unidentified Fossil. For backlist, I'm going to go with a shorter book, and that is going to be Nimona. Short-ish. It's a graphic novel. But this is Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. As a sidekick and supervillain, Nimona and Lord Blackheart. Nimona is an impulsive young shapeshifter with a knack for villainy. Lord Baluster Blackheart is a villain with a vendetta. As sidekick and supervillain, Nimona and Lord Blackheart are about to wreak some serious havoc. Their mission to prove to the kingdom that Sir Ambrosius Goldenloin and his buddies are at the Institute of Law Enforcement and heroics aren't the heroes everyone thinks they are. Nemesis, dragon, science, symbolism, all these and more await in the brilliantly subversive, sharply irreverent epic. So, I've read and D. Stevenson's memoir, graphic memoir, and I thought it was really cool, and I really enjoyed the art, so it made me really interested in Nimona, particularly as I heard about the adaptation that Nimona has. Have not watched that yet. I do want to read the graphic novel first. So, and Gardenia's Vigor. I think I'm gonna hold off on this one, and just allow myself to either find something on Lero that I really want to listen to that's a relatively new release, or something at a bookstore or something. So this is my go ahead and buy something. So I'm gonna hold up on this. But these are the books that I am hoping to read for the month of November, plus several audiobooks. If you've read any of these, please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let me know which one you think I should prioritize. Otherwise, thanks again for sticking with me and bearing with me as I figure myself out. And yeah, I hope that you are in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading. I will see you in another video very soon. Chew.